Many people say that they think that Mandarin Chinese is the most difficult language in the world. Is that true? The way we feel about something depends on how we look at it, and that means that whether we feel Mandarin Chinese is difficult or easy has less to do with the language itself and more to do with our perspective. Let's compare Mandarin Chinese with the languages that English speakers have most frequently learned at school. Take an English word like person. Picking up the equivalents in Spanish, French and German is pretty easy. You almost don't even need to learn the word, you can just say the English word with a different accent. But the word in Mandarin Chinese is a different story. An English word like hand is identical in German, and if you consider alternative words in English like manual, then picking up the equivalents in Spanish and French is pretty easy too. But again, Mandarin Chinese is a different story. Similarly with a word like blue or azure, neither of which help us with learning the Mandarin Chinese equivalent. And when you realize that the written form in Chinese actually looks like this, then it all starts to look ridiculously difficult for all but the brightest linguists. On the other hand, most English speakers, based on their experiences of learning Spanish, French or German at school, tend to say, "I'm no good at languages." And when you press them, they tend to say things like, "Well, I don't understand how there are so many words for the, and how everything has to be masculine or feminine. I mean, why is the floor masculine and the table feminine? It just doesn't make any sense." Amazingly, there is no word at all for the in Mandarin Chinese, and no genders. The very things that make Spanish, French and German difficult for English speakers to learn do not even exist in Mandarin Chinese. Take a look at a verb like to go. In order to be able to use it in all different contexts, you actually have to learn a bewildering number of different versions. 56 different versions in the case of aller in French. So many of these conjugations are irregular too, which means they don't even follow predictable rules. No wonder so many English speakers feel that they can't do languages. Amazingly, in Mandarin Chinese, there are no conjugations and no irregulars. There's only one word to learn. Similarly with plurals. Usually we just add an S, but there are so many irregulars to remember as well. Words in Mandarin Chinese never change at all. It's always just one hand, two hand, and so on. And one final example. If you learn a simple sentence like I see her in French, you immediately see that the equivalent words are in a different order. If you now try to flip it around, all three words in both English and French have completely changed, so you now have 3 new words to learn. Isn't that crazy? In Mandarin Chinese, you have no new words to learn when you flip things around. You just rearrange the words you already know. Looking at Mandarin Chinese from this perspective, it starts to look so much easier to learn than other Indo-European languages. Perhaps it would be best offered not to the brightest linguists, but rather to those who have failed at Spanish, French or German. As we said at the beginning then, whether we feel Mandarin Chinese is easy or difficult has less to do with the language itself and more to do with our perspective. And the crucial point to note is that Mandarin Chinese is not just a different language to add into the existing teaching and assessment systems alongside European languages. It's a different kind of language, and it needs to be presented and tested in a different way. And if we do that, then learning Mandarin Chinese can help us to see the wider world from a different perspective too, so that we can navigate it with greater confidence.